Jim Rickards warns that this crisis will be the worst one yet. James G. Rickards is a well-known financial expert, author, lawyer, economist, investment banker, speaker, and media analyst who has written several books in which he elaborates on the current economic crisis and how it will affect everyone around the world. As someone who understands the current financial system and how it works, Rickards is predicting a new catastrophe that will be more severe than anything we've seen before. It's no secret the United States is experiencing severe economic trouble. Hi, you've reached Finance Sense, the place where we discuss all the most recent trends in the financial markets and the economy. But before we get started, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, hit the bell notification button, and subscribe to our channel so that you can stay up to date with our new videos. Having said that, let's get started. Each new crisis poses a greater threat than the one before it. We have seen how their consequences have grown and become more widespread across the world, from the crisis that occurred in 1998 up to the crisis that occurred in 2008. And now, in 2023, we will reach a point where the crisis will be stronger than the Fed's ability to stop it. According to Jim Rickards, due to the fact that this system is so intricate and dynamic, it is hard to tell just how uncomfortably near we are to this impending crisis. It is extremely difficult to accurately anticipate when a crisis will occur when dealing with complex dynamic systems, even though it is possible to make quite accurate predictions regarding the severity of the crisis. The world has experienced this twice before. In 1998, we were only a few hours away from closing down every market across the globe. It all started on August 17, 1998, when Russia defaulted on its external debt. This resulted in a significant devaluation of the ruble, which in turn sparked a global liquidity crisis that spread to every region of the world. People sell all they own during a liquidity crisis, and as a result, their positions are blown out of proportion while spreads widen and margin calls occur. The same thing took place in the year 2008. On September 15, 2008, financial institutions such as the Lehman Brothers, Morgan Stanley, and Goldman Sachs were on the brink of going under. John Mack, who had previously served as a director at Morgan Stanley, stated that during the event, the Lehman Brothers was pleading for help, but he could not provide it since Morgan Stanley had problems that needed to be resolved. After that, the Fed stepped in, built a wall that stopped them from plummeting further, and bailed them out of their situation. In addition, as per Rickards, each bailout is more extensive than the one that came before it. And each crisis is likewise riskier. For this reason, you should look for assets that are not going to be negatively affected by a global liquidity crisis. But what exactly are they? Some examples include land, real estate, gold and silver, drawings and paintings, and natural resources such as water, energy, and oil. Meanwhile, if you want to invest in the stock market, Rickards suggests purchasing stock in natural resource-focused companies like ExxonMobil and Chevron. These companies have a strong track record of profitability. Although there are a number of ways to protect oneself, Rickards feels that a typical stock portfolio is not a viable one because banks and money market funds are likely to be in distress in a liquidity crisis. Rickards went on to point out that the dollar has been operating as a cryptocurrency since at least 1979. This was the year that marked the end of the Treasury's practice of issuing paper Treasury notes or stamps, which were redeemable at banks by peeling off a coupon and presenting it to the teller in order to receive payment. Around the same time in 1980, the dollar became a digital currency and message traffic began to be encrypted. However, Rickards believes that in terms of the impact on the dollar, this was a situation in which one should be careful what they wish for. Rickards said that he had expressed his concerns to the Department of Defense or the Pentagon and the Treasury since he is familiar with the implementation of economic sanctions. According to Rickards, such sanctions can be powerful. However, if they are utilized irresponsibly or across an extensive scope, they lose all of their efficacy. The United States had never frozen a central bank's assets. In fact, they had never done so before until now. In addition, with the exception of Iran, it has never kicked an entire nation out of SWIFT until doing so with Russia. It is not only limited to oligarchs in Russia where assets like mansions and yachts have been taken as a result of economic sanctions. Chrystia Freeland, Canada's Deputy Prime Minister, displayed a similar kind of neo-fascism not so long ago when she ordered the freezing of the bank accounts and cryptocurrency wallets of truck drivers. According to a new interpretation of Canadian legislation provided by Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland, the Government of Canada has gone so far as to make it a crime for anyone showing support for truckers. You may claim that it's for a good cause that Canada and the United States have frozen the Canadian dollar and US dollar accounts of people they don't like. And you can say that Putin should have never invaded Ukraine in the first place. But how secure do you feel about the dollar's value at the moment? Rickards asserts that they did not give their actions sufficient thought, are unaware of the knock-on consequences that would result from their actions, and do not understand the function of the international monetary system. To give an example, Rickards described the situation in reference to the sanctions that involve Russia. As the United States imposed a variety of sanctions on Russia, Russia retaliated by stopping the export of a variety of goods, including strategic metals, chemicals, and other elements that are needed by everyone else as inputs in their manufacturing processes. For example, they placed a ban on the export of nickel. As a result, producers of batteries for electric cars in the United States are having a difficult time doing so since the price of nickel has increased by a factor of 4 or 5. In addition to this, the London Metal Exchange fell and was forced to shut down. But who took the loss? According to Rickards, a Chinese billionaire who controls one of the largest nickel mining companies in the world, saw a loss of between $5 and $6 billion. The United States and Russia are currently engaging in an economic war, but the one that suffered the most came from China. This illustrates how the damage can manifest in places where you would least expect to see it. On the other hand, Rickards stated that Russia had around 600 tons of gold, but they now have approximately 2,300 tons. Meanwhile, China had about 600 tons of gold, and today they have around 2,000 tons, which is somewhat less than what we know of. Nevertheless, they may have several thousand tons of gold off the books in the state administration of foreign exchange that we are unaware of. Additionally, as per Rickards, both Russia and China have increased their gold stockpiles by a factor of 4 or more. This is something that Rickards had already warned the Pentagon about back in 2009. However, Rickards disagrees with the widespread consensus that the Chinese yuan is destined to become the world's dominant reserve currency and provides a number of arguments to support his stance. Rickards said, the primary reason that the Chinese yuan is not going to become the global reserve currency is that when you talk about reserve currency, you need to understand what it means. It's not like the People's Bank of China has a lot of $100 notes and pallets stored in the basement. When individuals refer to reserve currency, what they actually mean is the currency of the bonds that they invest in. To put it another way, the dollar-denominated assets that China actually has, which come in the form of treasury bonds or notes, are the ones that are recorded on their books. Therefore, the lack of the rule of law and the absence of infrastructure or plumbing are two other reasons why the yuan and the ruble will not replace the dollar as a reserve currency. On the other hand, Rickards suggested back then that it was possible to develop an entirely new currency with all the necessary characteristics and infrastructure to take over as the primary reserve currency. If you want some of the new currency, you could either trade with other people for it, run a surplus, or deposit some of your own gold and earn some of the currency in return. However, in order to establish confidence, you will need gold. Rickards continued by pointing out that the yuan and the ruble do not have bond markets, and they are not likely to have them anytime soon. As a result, neither of these currencies is going to replace anything. Thank you for watching this far. Please leave a like, subscribe to help us expand our future audience, and comment down your thoughts in the comment section. This is Finance Sense helping you keep up with all the latest trends in the financial markets and the economy. Stay safe and look out for the next video.